All right. Well, super excited to have Kent Clothier in speaking to our 0 to 100 accountability huddle. I'll do a quick little intro just so you guys actually know who you've got in the room. Kent is a nationally recognized entrepreneur, real estate expert, and performance coach. He's actually my coach. And I think I've told you the story before, but Kent was the one that told me no, he would not coach me until I did X. Um, and so Ken got started in business at 17 years old. He grew a company to $1.8 billion. That's with a B by the age of 30 years old. And he restarted in 2022. Client moved and conquered into the real estate industry. Since then, the Clothier family has flipped over 8,000 houses, right? And currently manages a portfolio of 7,500 single family homes in 11 different markets across the United States. Ken and his partners are actively involved in managing portfolios of multiple real estate funds. He's a partner in Barefoot Land Co., which is the company that I'm operating right now, including self storage, multifamily, hospitality assets. He's also the founder of Real Estate Worldwide, so the Boardroom Mastermind that I was just at in Hawaii. He is the man, the leader of that. They do coaching. They live in La Jolla, California. He's got 53,000 clients in his companies and super excited. Kent is, besides all those accolades, he's just an all-around amazing human, a very close friend of mine. And so I'm super excited to have you here, brother. Thanks a lot for coming and pouring into our community.
No, man, thanks for having me. Glad to help any way I possibly can. Obviously, I've been watching from the sidelines here, man. It's inspiring to see what you in particular have done, but you and the entire family have done. And shout out to what you just accomplished, a couple weeks ago, and I guess getting ready to go do the New York City Marathon this weekend. Always doing the hard things, dude. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We're looking forward to the marathon this weekend.
Are you sure you're looking forward to it?
I actually am. Seamus actually set some goals though that I'm kind of worried about. Okay, yesterday, fun fact, we went and bought 44 bras yesterday, and I put 13 of them on because I'm right. If you don't know, I'm going after a world record, the most bras worn during a marathon by a dude. And I put 13 of them on. I'm like, shit, this is gonna be bad.
This is a bad idea.
This is a bad idea.
I
Like,
should
who
have
the hell,
actually
like,
tried to do this before I said I was going to do it. Because it's
this
not going to
guy,
be the running. It's going to actually be getting 44 bras on your body.
no shit. Oh my God, yeah. I was actually starting to have like a panic attack.
Oh,
Um,
she showed me the video when you were trying them on. I was just like, wow, that's 13. So he's
that
got
was
to
only
put
13.
four times as many on, and he's already he's already complaining that he can't get that around him. This is going to be interesting.
It's gonna be hilarious. Yeah, for some of you guys to
So
watch.
Brady, what's the biggest way? I mean, you and I haven't had a real opportunity. What's the most impactful thing that I can share with your group here to try to help everybody? I know what everybody's kind of going through. I know why people are joining the 0 to 100 challenge, but I want to be, in the limited time I have here, I want to absolutely provide as much value as I can. Obviously, I coach you privately. I do the same thing with Derek here. So, I mean, between what do you think would be the most impactful for your group here?
Man, to be honest, like I think, this health and fitness is one aspect that everybody's trying to dial in and get like just kind of make it as a core habit, right? But when you get that dialed in, all other aspects of life become better. And it's really about optimizing. It's about, not it's just tell your story and just tell us the stuff that you talk about on stage all the
Yeah.
time. I
So,
think
guys,
is
I mean,
impactful because we're trying to not be mediocre, right? We're trying to become better.
yeah, absolutely. I can do that. So guys, Brady mentioned some of the things that have happened throughout my life. And, I was very fortunate. I was raised, well, I look back now as very fortunate. My parents got divorced when I was very young. And so my father was a very, very hardcore entrepreneur. And that kind of gave me, looking back, a leg up because I was never taught I was never sold anything along the lines of that I would ever go to work for anybody. I was always told that good isn't good when great is expected, and that the world's never going to hand you anything. You've got to go get it. You've got to make it happen, and that ended up being a major asset for me and allowed me to accomplish a lot of things at a very young age and continue to accomplish as I kept moving forward as I got older. And on the other side, my mother was a very dominant figure in my life as well, and really taught me the power of empathy and the power of being a good human, and that time is very limited here, and the relationships that you build and the impact you have on others actually matters. And so the combination of those two things is kind of what you see here today. I take a lot of pride in what I've been able to accomplish, certainly from a business and financial standpoint, but to Brady's point, everything has to do with what's going on in between your ears. And that inner voice, that inner dialogue is the weapon, is the power, is the thing that will either rob you very silently, rob you of any aspiration and rob you of any motivation that you've got or any belief system that you've got that you can accomplish more, or it will empower you every single day. And if you don't control it, unfortunately, in my humble opinion, the world is designed from whether it is our friends, our family, the media, the news outlets, whatever you want to call it, social media, basically the environment we live in today is absolutely designed to rob you, each and every one of us, of our power, right? Pitting us against each other, making us believe that we are somehow need to be dependent upon other mechanisms. And that is unfortunately, it is the most prominent and prevalent thing that is out there. Many people have no concept of what they are actually capable of because they have been silently lulled to sleep in thinking that, they are powerless, and they end up playing the role of the victim. And I can tell you, I've been very fortunate in my life. I've had the opportunity to travel around the world, spend a lot of time in different charities, spend a lot of time in Haiti in particular, spend a lot of time in Nicaragua in particular. And there are real victims in the world. There are real people that are born in an environment where they are powerless. And it is an uphill climb like none of us could ever imagine. And nobody on this call is that. Nobody here is a victim. But inevitably, at some point, everybody plays that role. And you play that role, we play that role by, again, what we are telling ourselves. I can't do this. I am this. And I'll give you examples. So we just had an event for the Boardroom in Hawaii. And these are very, very high level entrepreneurs. Like I could easily argue the top 1% of the 1%. And even at their level, there were a couple cases where I had to point out to people that they were defining themselves right in front of their peers and making comments like, well, I'm not really good at the financial side of our business, or I'm not really good at hiring people, or I am not this, or I am not that. And that is a great example of what I'm talking about here. When you box yourself in and say, I am not this, or I am bad at that, or I can't do this, that kind of self-talk immediately is what your brain focuses on. In other words, we are all the product of our environment, but we are much more the product of the things we tell ourselves, the words that come out of our mouth, because we make them true. And if you go into anything and say, I can't run a marathon, well, the next actions that you will take are probably very little towards running that marathon. Now, if you say things to yourself like, one phrase that I will give you today, and I would tell everybody to write this down. Anytime you're doing this, if you would simply preface it with this one comment, up to this point, comma, I have not been good at running marathons. Up to this point, I have not been a good business operator. Up to this point, I have not been brave enough to go start my new business. Up to this point, I have not been great at sales. When that one phrase gives you the power right back. And it is what your brain needs to hear. It's what your heart needs to feel, so that in turn, you now feel empowered, because what you're saying to your brain at that point is, I can change it. I have the power to do something about it. It is not defining me. It defined me up to this point, but from this point forward, now it's a choice. And when you use empowering language, you'll be shocked at what the brain begins to believe, right? We have two sides of our brain, our conscious and our subconscious. Our subconscious is extremely powerful. And most people don't really understand the power, of the subconscious mind. But the subconscious mind is not analytical. It absolutely just believes what it's seeing or hearing. It does not study it, and it is extremely powerful. And it believes it so intently that, in fact, it will physically change you, where it will cause reactions in your body because it just doesn't know the difference. And I will prove it to you right here. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever had a dream that you have woken up from and it was so real that you're breathing heavy, maybe even crying, or your heart's racing or whatever? How many of you have ever had that occurrence? Okay, so basically everybody. Now, take a step back and realize what was just going on. It wasn't real. We can all agree that. But in your mind's eye, in your subconscious, it was believing it. It was seeing it in the mind, and it was believing it to the point that it was changing your physiology. It was literally dropping dopamine, making your heart race, maybe making you sweat, it's physically changing you because it doesn't know the difference. So imagine if you could weaponize your subconscious to believing that you deserve everything you've ever dreamed of, that you were entitled to it, that you are not a victim, that you are not in any way, shape, or form confined by what is going on in your life right now, that up to this point, these have been your circumstances, but from this point forward, I have the ability to change it. And when you start getting into that kind of headspace and stop playing the role of the victim and play the role of the victor, that's what 0 to 100 is all about. Getting, proving to yourself what you're actually capable of. But many of us get into this headspace of, well, I need to see it to believe it. It's exactly opposite of that, right? I've been on this planet for 54 years. I've spent 37 of them in business. I have gone through every possible hardship you could go through, the ups, the downs, the suicidal thoughts. I've been there. I've lost a big business. I've built many businesses. I mean, I've suffered more than most will ever suffer in their life, certainly in the world of business, right? And I can tell you that seeing is believing is a myth. Believing is seeing is the actual way it is. When you believe it, and then you empower yourself to go for it, and you take little steps every day, that natural progression turns right back around and reinforces those beliefs, and it starts stepping itself up. Brady, when you started your journey, I know, Derek, you're the same way. There's no doubt in my mind that you were filled with self-doubt. Can I stop drinking? Can I lead a healthy life? Can I actually go and run or walk, or can I do these things? There's all this self-doubt. And the only way you get through that is, I believe I can. And you start taking actions and turn around, and suddenly that momentum starts reinforcing the belief. And then you get on this amazing journey where it's all of a sudden, well, now a marathon is not good enough. Now we got to do a 50 miler. Now let's do a 100 miler. Now let's do the ultimate. Like, we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that is the way all of life is. Once that belief gets reinforced because of the actions you took, suddenly the belief is now what you're seeing right in front of you every single day. And so I would encourage all of you to really think about what am I telling myself, and be very, very conscious of the words you're using, because there's one person that's always listening, and that's you. Always. What are you using? When you use a word like can't or cannot, the moment I would empower every single person in your circle, family, friends, that if you ever hear me say the word can't or cannot, I want you to check me. I want you to point it out to me, because the words can't and cannot are not true, ladies and gentlemen, the way most of us use them. You sit there and tell yourself, I can't lose weight. I can't eat clean. I can't stop drinking. That is absolutely not true. The right words, and that I would encourage you to replace it with, is I choose not to. Because when you replace the words can't and cannot, which are victim words, like it's not in your control, with the actual words of a victor of I choose not to, that does not feel good. But it's the truth. And that's how you start changing patterns. That's how you start changing beliefs. And that's how you start changing actions, which ultimately means you're changing results. Is that this is a weapon. And if you don't take control of it, everybody else will. The world around you will just, it happen. You're taking in millions of data points every single day directly into your subconscious. We all are. And you get to decide, most don't, but everybody in this group gets to decide what impact that will have on you. Yes or no, right? You basically get to decide, what are the books I'm going to read? I'm going to be a part of this group. What are the groups I'm going to be a part of? What are the podcasts I'm going to listen to? What is the information I'm going to take in? What does my self-talk look like? Who are the mentors that I'm going to invite into my life? What are the actions? That's taking control of your subconscious, which absolutely puts you on the path to whatever you're aspiring to do. The bottom line is it will definitely be better than the alternative, right? You've got nowhere to go but up if you're not taking control. And so let me tell you kind of, how that manifests itself, right? I would argue, I've been, Brady mentioned it. I spend a great deal of time working with very high level people, coaching them at a high level. And I can tell you in almost every case, the person that is sitting in front of me is thinking too small. Ironically, in almost every case, when a very, by any account, very high level person is sitting in front of me, ironically, whether it is my gift, whatever you want to call it, I probably believe in their potential at that moment more than they do. I see things in them that they don't even see yet. And it's been a very humbling and exciting experience for me to watch people get this right and start taking actions, and suddenly they're everything that they believed that they were entitled to, or what is not only has happened, but it's quickly in their rearview mirror because they know that they can do so much more. And every one of you have that same ability. But it starts with getting this under control and then taking actions, getting results, and exciting what your potential actually is. So the next question is, okay, Ken, if I get, so I really start focusing on my self-talk, I really start thinking about what my potential is, I start really understanding kind of where I want to go, how do I actually motivate myself to take action, right? And as you can see by the sign behind me, and a common theme in my life for many, many years has been that the time is now. Like, this is your moment. This is all you got. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but every single person on this call has an expiration date, and it's coming, and it's coming way too soon. There is no nobility in going small. There is no nobility in punting and saying, I'll get to it next week, next month, next year, because every single day when people pass away, all of their dreams and all of their next week, next month, next year die with them. And that to me is a waste of opportunity. And being on your deathbed with regret bottled up inside of you of what you could have or should have done is one of the most, quite frankly, disgusting things that I can imagine. I would argue it's irresponsible. We live in an amazing time. Regardless of what's going on in the politics and all the craziness right now, here's the bottom line, right? There are 3 billion people on this planet that do not have access to clean food clean water or clean sanitation. There are 4 billion people on this planet that live on less than $5 a day, period. We live in an amazing country at an amazing time where it has never been easier, or there's never been so much freedom to go and create and do whatever you want to do with your life, period. There is literally nothing stopping you. Well, some of you may know, well, I don't have money or this. It is never a lack of resources preventing you from your dreams. I promise you. Anything preventing from your dreams is a lack of resourcefulness. Never a lack of resources. It is a lack of resourcefulness. If you want something bad enough, you will figure out how to go and get it, period. And if you ever need to prove that to yourself, then just imagine whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, some big audacious goal. Imagine that if someone were to harm your children or threaten your children, put a gun up to your children's head and say, Laura, Patrick, Mason, if you don't accomplish this goal, I am going to pull the trigger. In that moment, is there any doubt in anybody's mind here whether you would reach that goal or not? Absolutely not. Which means if it's possible, when circumstances or stakes are raised on you for you to get real resourceful real quick to figure out how to get it done, then that means it's possible under any circumstances, period. And that's the wake-up call, is that, oh, wow, under these crazy circumstances, I could get it done. Of course, my kids' lives are on the line. Okay. So that means it isn't a lack of resources. You just said, I'll do whatever it takes. Well, whatever it takes means you would get real resourceful real quick. So don't act like a victim. Be the victor. Solve the problems, overcome the challenges, address the issues that are absolutely preventing you from getting it done, and then get in a hurry. And again, my comment to you is the time is now. This is the moment. You have an expiration date, and it is coming. And if you ever need to get humbled and realize that, man, I got this right in front of me. There are people all over this world right now that your worst day in business or life, they're praying for it because it would be their best. So don't be irresponsible and waste that opportunity. There are 975,000 people on any given day sitting in hospital beds in the United States right now, waiting would love to be able to get on a Zoom call right now and talk about how to do cool things with their life, knowing that they are not going to leave that hospital room. Their lives are going to end sooner rather than later. So while we have blood pumping through our veins, air in our lungs, healthy, aspirational, can do things, go do them. Go, move. And if you need motivation, I know Derek, I know Christy, I know Brady have all done this exercise with me, but I'll tell you a real easy way to do this for all of you that are watching that have never heard me speak. Everybody here, grab your cell phone, pull it out, and go open up the calculator app real quick. I'll wait. And I'm going to ask each and every one of you to put a number in the chat here in just a second. So if you're a man, I want you to start with the number 78 and subtract your age. If you're a woman, I want you to start with the number 82, subtract your age. And I want you to multiply that times 365. And whatever number you got, I want you to put it in the chat here. Man, you start with 78. Woman, start with 82, subtract your age and multiply it times 365. So Jessica's at 16,000, 14,000, 6,000. There you go. Everybody's got the idea here. All right, so here's the humbling part. What you have just calculated, statistically speaking, is how many days you have left on this planet. That's what you just figured out. Take that number right now. Keep it in your calculator and multiply it times 0.67. Put that number in there. Everybody got a number? Okay. What that number is it's safe to assume that you're going to be asleep for 8 hours out of those 24 hours of every day. So now you've just calculated how many waking days you have left on this planet. You know, I'm 54 years old. It's statistically correct that I will have 24 Christmases left. That I'll have 24 summer vacations left. That I'll have 24 Thanksgivings left. Right? when you start thinking of the world in a very realistic way, statistically speaking, what you've calculated is how many days you have left on this planet. And if you want to get real motivated real quick, I would tell you immediately after this call, for those either sitting in your office or sitting at home, go get a dry erase marker and go write that number. Whatever you see, go put it on the mirror in your master bathroom where you put your makeup on or shave or comb your hair, brush your teeth. Go put that number on that master where you have to look at it every day. And every day when you get up and you go to brush your teeth or comb your hair, well, you get the privilege and the honor of doing one thing, erasing that last digit and replacing it with one number smaller and watching your life tick away right in front of your eyes. And when you do that, the right headspace, you start to realize that this is all you got, baby. This is it. There ain't nothing promised. This is the day. Everything I do today matters. I'm going to go fight for my dreams. I'm going to go fight for my family. I'm going to go set the example for my family. I'm going to demonstrate what it looks like to be a impactful human being in this moment, because this is the only one I got. Right? Statistically speaking, the vast majority of people die suddenly, meaning they have no idea it's coming. You know, if you think about the last 7 days of your life, if you found out today that you had 7 days left on this planet, 168 hours, my question to you would be, who would you call? What would you do? Who would you reach out to? What are the actions you would take knowing you had 7 days left? Right? Because whatever that is that you say you would do, those are the most important things in the world to you. My recommendation for you was do more of that now, because you could be in your last 7 days today. And every day you act like you're in your last 7 days, I promise you it will bring the best out of you. That's how you use the inner dialogue, the goal setting, and the action taking. That all starts to come together in a very, very healthy mindset of, man, this is it. This is what I got. Again, whether it's media or friends or whatever, or parents, whatever, we get lulled to sleep at the wheel and get conned into putting off life and sold this BS dream of, oh yeah, well, I'll retire when I'm 65 and I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that. And who the hell wants to wait till you're 65? Like, go get it now, because it is doable. I am a redneck, barely educated guy from Dallas, Texas. Hardly got out of high school. If my dumbass can do it, then anybody can do it. This is not becoming more educated. This is becoming more action oriented, period, right? The world is filled with overeducated, broke people. And it is equally filled with undereducated, wildly successful dipshits. It is not about education. That's a thing we tell ourselves that makes us the victim. Well, I don't have this, or I don't have that. Who cares? You have this, and you have this, and you have this community. Now it's up to you. Get in the moment and take super scary actions every day that will make you better, that push you further. Why? Because it's doable. Why? Because it's irresponsible not to. Why? Because this is the only moment you've got, period. And acting like you have more is irresponsible and reckless. That is how greatness is achieved. You know, I have a handful of tattoos like Brady on my body. I've got the time is now here, and then I've got F average, be legendary, and then the big one on my arm says mediocrity is the enemy. I am completely allergic to anything average. I don't want anything in my life, people, experiences, anything. I want to soak and wring everything out of life that I possibly can, because I have an ungodly respect for how fast it could go, all be gone. And I'll share 2 stories with you that got me into that headspace. One, I had a mentor, my uncle, But as I was coming up, I idolized this man. I lived in Delray Beach, Florida at the time. He lived in Daytona Beach, and he was the head of a very, very successful cruise line, CEO of the company. And so when he retired at the age of 60, they gave him a $30 million exit. And he had spent his entire life traveling the world, building this company, telling himself the whole time that I'm away from my family, but I'm doing it for them, right? All the sacrifices I'm making are for my family. One day, it's all going to happen. Sure enough, he got his check. And as fate would have it, 6 months later, he was diagnosed with cancer. And 6 months later, he was on his deathbed in Daytona Beach. And I got a phone call October 12th. And I was asked to drive to see him as fast as I possibly could, which is a 5-hour drive, by the way, because he was only asking for me. And he wanted to see me before he died. And this guy was a 6'5", probably 250-pound guy. I mean, just had a presence. And so when I finally got to the hospital room and ran in there, he was completely hooked up to a respirator, could not talk, and he probably weighed 150 pounds, looked like a bag of bones. I didn't even recognize him. His face was sunken in. It was just horrible to see. But his eyes lit up when I got there. And luckily he had a whiteboard, and that was the way he was communicating. So he had a whiteboard that said, I want you to celebrate my life. And then he said, I just wish I had more time. And had a profound effect on me because, again, as I said, I idolized this man. And there was a lot of things that I was doing in my life, including spending a lot of time away from my family, trying to build a business, that I was modeling him. I thought this is what you had to do, right? And when I saw that, and then he held my hand and he passed away a few minutes later, the effect it had on me was, and this guy's got $30 million in the bank, probably more, right? I just know he got 30 million on the way out. And all he wanted was one more minute, one more hour, maybe one more day. And he couldn't write a check for it. Like, that money didn't matter. So we think this is about money sometimes in business, but I promise you it's not. It's about time. It's about quality of time. It's about collecting memories, not collecting crap. It's about, the experience. It's about the impact. It's the people that we made better. It's, it's all the things, the way we give ourselves to others and soak up life as much as humanly possible. And the only time to do that is right now, because you never know when that phone call is going to come. But just in case, I didn't get the message, about 7 months later, I happened to be on an airplane flying home after speaking at a large event in Tennessee. And my wife and my young daughter at the time, who was 5, met me at the event, but they flew in from Florida. I had flown in from Arizona. And so why is that? It's important because on our return trip, we were connecting through Atlanta, going back to West Palm Beach. So on our trip, because of our itineraries, we were actually sitting in the plane apart, right? Because we booked at 2 different times, 2 different itineraries. And it seemed like, we'd done it dozens of times. It did not seem like a big deal. Hey, it's only a 2-hour flight. I'll see you guys when we land, right? So I'm in 19A, they're 26E and F. And about 45 minutes into the flight, the plane fills with smoke somewhere over North Florida. And I'm looking down at my computer, and I'll look up, and the smoke is pouring from the front of the plane through the entire plane, which is nothing you ever want to happen, right? I mean, that is a nightmare in and of itself. And at that exact moment, the flight attendant, for some unknown reason, decided to get on the mic and freaked out, which sent the entire plane into hysteria. Basically, oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, we're on fire. We're on fire. Please, crew, return to your stations. Crew, return to, and that you could hear it in her voice that this was very, very serious. The buzzers are going off, wah, 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 wah. And I did not know this back then. I know it now, that if a plane is on fire, the very first thing they do, the captain starts putting it into a very quick descent to try to get the plane below 13,000 feet as fast as possible in case it loses pressure so that people can still breathe. So going from 30,000 feet to 13,000 feet in a very rapid descent with all this going on in seconds, you can imagine the terror and panic everybody went into, right? Suddenly we're in a nosedive. Don't know the bomb's going off, don't know if we're on fire, don't know what the hell's going on. And every single person is screaming on that plane all at one time in a smoke-filled plane. But the only person I get to hear scream is my daughter, who is sitting behind me. My wife is sitting next to the window. My daughter is in the middle seat. I can just see the top of her head, but I can hear her screaming for daddy. And I cannot get to her. So here I am in my final moments, having to listen to my daughter scream for me. And there's nothing I can do to help her. Zero. And even worse, I have to look my wife in the eyes and say, I love you and goodbye across the heads of 20 strangers. The most gut-wrenching moment of my life, without a doubt. And I have to be very careful and talk about it because I'll start shaking. The mast dropped. The captain did come on maybe a minute later and told us that they did not know what was going on. The plane was clearly on fire, and we were going to have to make an emergency landing in Tampa, Florida, that they were clearing the runways, and that when the time come, we needed to follow the crew's instructions when we were told to brace for impact, brace for impact, brace for impact. None of that I would wish on my worst enemy. I carry around me to this day a video a selfie video that I recorded to my son, telling him goodbye so that he would know that in my final moments, if they found my phone, that I was thinking of him. And I wanted him to know that. This was very real. And I can tell you for sure, nobody thought we were going to make it. For sure, we absolutely thought we were going to crash, and we would be one of those statistics that everybody here has read about online or in a newspaper and never give one more minute of thought about 292 people died on a plane crash today. And you read that headline and you never look at it again. Well, I absolutely knew we were getting ready to be that headline, for sure. And it was very, very humbling. Now, as fate would have it, we got on the ground. We did land. The fire trucks did come out at the end of the runway. The firemen did come on, and they assessed and said we were no longer on fire. They did not know what was going on. They brought us up to the jetway. We got off the plane. We had the stereotypical, completely dingbat gate agent basically get on there and, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we heard there was a little problem on the plane here today. Maintenance is taking a look. And as quickly as they get off the plane, we're going to get you right back on this thing and get you right back down to West Palm Beach. And I was like, hell no. Zero chance I was getting back on that plane. I have never rented a car so fast in my entire life. I rented a car. Seema jumped in. The baby jumped in. Some lady that was sitting next to Seema jumped in. We drove to West Palm Beach, and it was the single greatest drive of my life, because I had ultimate clarity in that moment that this could all end in a second, and I ain't going out like that. I'm not going out with any regrets. I'm going to live the biggest and most full life that I can. I'm going to be extremely over the top, family centric. I'm going to create as much impact in my life as I possibly can. I'm going to leave this place better than I found it. I'm going to take advantage of every moment that is in front of me. I'm going to be the best version of me that I know how to be. I am going to stop screwing around and conning myself to sleep, I'm going to get that inner dialogue completely under control and use it, weaponize it to become great at everything I do, not just a few things I do. And my life changed dramatically right after that, because that was 14 years ago. I moved out to California to move into my dream home, set up my dream situation. I walk to work every day or ride a skateboard. I'm a 54-year-old man who skateboards to work, and I don't give a shit, right? It's my version of great. I walk my little girl to school every single day. And the things that matter most to me are front and center now. I don't push things around. I created a business that allows me to live a great life surrounded by amazing people for one reason, because I decided I deserved it and I did it. And I can tell you the power is in the decision. The power is becoming resourceful. The power is getting your head right. The power is deciding that whatever you want your life to look like, you deserve it, and you get in a hurry to go get it right now. And nobody's promising you it's going to be cupcakes and rainbows and sunshine and it's going to be super easy and all you're going to do is press a button and it's magically going to appear. Nope. Just the opposite. You're signing up for whatever it takes. You know, Brady and Christy and Derek have heard me use this analogy before, but if I wanted to sign up and become a great MMA fighter, not great, the champion of the world at 54 years old, if I decided that how I was going to get there was getting on calls like this, or listening to podcasts, or watching videos, or reading books, and that would be the way I would become a great fighter, everybody on here would absolutely positively know that I'm acting crazy. Like, wait a minute, Kent, have you ever actually got in the ring? Have you actually done? No, man, I've attended every webinar. I have listened to every podcast. I have watched every MMA fight, and I've read every book. I think I'm ready. Everybody in my life would know that I've absolutely lost my mind. I would sound like an idiot. If I wanted to be great at MMA or UFC, the one thing that for sure has to happen is I have to get in the ring. And if I'm going to get in the ring, clearly there's a few things that I need to be prepared for. I'm going to get hit. And I'm going to get hit a lot. And I have an opponent that is trying to choke me out, that is trying to make me bleed, make me submit, break my bones, bruise me, trying to beat me down. But I know that that's the only way I can become great. It is a Bible. I have to become great. If Brady, you want to become a great ultra marathoner, a great marathoner, one thing is for sure, you actually have to train and run the marathons. You're not going to get it by sitting on the sidelines, period. And if you came to this group or any other group and said, hey, I think I'm going to become a great marathoner just because I've been watching it on TV, everybody be like, dude, what are you talking about? Right? There's a level of sacrifice and commitment and willingness to get hit that is absolutely required in life. Your dreams, what you're trying to accomplish, anything you're trying to wake up inside you and make great, you need to understand, I'm willing to get hit. I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to get punched, and I don't care. Keep hitting me, baby, because that's how greatness is formed. You do not become a great champion by not getting hit. You become a great champion by getting hit, becoming resilient, learning how to avoid those hits in the future, learning how to take those hits in the future, and learning how to keep going and get better from them. So I'll leave you with this, right? Decide what you want out of life, realize it's inside you, be careful of the way you're speaking to yourself, get in a hurry to get it done, and be willing to absolutely do whatever it takes. Take as many hits as it takes. And understand, position the hits like this is the good stuff. This is actually how champions are made. Keep hitting me, baby. Keep hitting me. You're only bringing the best out of me when you hit me, because I will figure it out. You will not knock me out. You might knock me down, but in the end, I will be the champion. And that kind of attitude and that kind of mentality is how you will wake up the greatness inside of you.
Awesome, brother. Wow. Was that not powerful, guys? Just give me a little round of thank you for that. Look, thanks a lot, Ken. I mean, just
course.
literally magic, everything you say for the most part. That was the fewest swear words I've ever heard you speak in a 45-minute of time as well. So I can tell you're trying hard there. I didn't even know that was possible.
Which is actually true.
You were definitely trying. But let's just open it up. Who's got a question for Ken? We got a few more. We got some time, like 10 minutes here. So if we can get a few questions, feel free to throw your hand up or drop it in chat and I can read it. Not everybody at once either. Jeez. People are still crying. Who's got a question?
I have a
I mean,
question.
yeah, let's go.
Obviously, you're a very successful businessman before that experience you had on the airplane. Did your business, I know your lifestyle with your family and all that obviously had a big impact from that. Did it change how you ran a business or started new businesses from that experience as well?
I don't think it changed. That's a great question. And I don't think here's the best way. My businesses are more successful than they've ever been. That's probably the easiest way. I am more authentic than I've ever been. My willingness to tolerate BS dropped dramatically, which in myself and others, right? And so so in those ways, absolutely my business has become more successful. Absolutely, I've become more peaceful, more calm, more confident, a better leader in every regard. I have a saying that you get what you tolerate, right? So my willingness to tolerate mediocrity in any area of my life has gone down dramatically, which naturally puts you in a place where the businesses have done much better, right? Because I don't allow average people, mediocre people inside of my world, whether that is my customers, whether that is my partners, whether that is my clients. It doesn't exist, right? I weed it out very, very quickly. And so by virtue of that, when you surround yourself with great people, all moving in the right direction with a great leader, then businesses for sure become better, right? And that reflects itself not only in revenue, but in profitability and every regard. Customer satisfaction. I can tell you that I'm probably, I know I'm a much better leader of leaders for sure in what I do and how I help, my clients. The perspective that I'm able to drill into them now and share my stories like I did with you and many, many others allows them to not have to go through the brain damage and, the mental things that they go through, second guessing themselves, right? They've got somebody that can validate where they're trying to go and guide them very quickly as opposed to having to go through all the brain damage. So I think in sitting in my seat in every regard, everything has been better. I am certainly more comfortable in my own skin and more authentic than I've ever been at any other point in my life. I am unapologetically authentic. I simply don't give a shit. As my friends say a lot to me that, there's people that say that and there's other people, that actually mean it. And you're one of the guys that actually mean it. Like these guys will tell you, Christy and Brady and Derek and other what you see is what you get. I'm not here to try to impress anybody. What I'm here to do is get the most out of life. And a byproduct of that is that's my businesses have reflect that same opinion.
Just to follow up to that, Ken. So when you stop tolerating mediocrity, you got to get rid of things in your life, right? Like that a lot of that is people. I mean, it's just the reality of that because that's how we have successful friendships, successful businesses, successful communities is by getting rid of mediocrity. How do you handle, you know, doing navigating that, right? Because
I
getting rid
don't
of
overthink it.
yeah.
And it may sound callous and it may sound crass. But I'll give you a very real example of this, right? And so my father and I have had a very toxic relationship for most of my adult life. And I mean extremely toxic and not something and so for many, many years, I tolerated it, just trying to play nice. And 1 year ago, almost to the day, October 27th last year, I said, no more. I'm not doing this. It will not happen anymore, right? And we haven't spoken in 1 year. Not something I'm necessarily proud of. I wish it were different, but I'm not willing to tolerate mediocrity in my life. And here was a place where I was bending corners, where it was I had a guy in my life that was very, very manipulative, very toxic, very self-centered and to the point where it was just causing a great deal of turmoil and aggravation and frustration in my life. And this is my own father. And I'm like, this is not going to happen anymore. I'm done. And until he figures out what I figured out, that life is, meant to be, this is all you got, your family and your friend, like these are the most, like, he just doesn't see the world that way. And until he does, I'm not going to be a part of it. And so you have to choose your mental health, your well-being, what's going like, and again, I say it over and over, like, mediocrity is the enemy, and you get what you tolerate, and how you do anything is how you do everything. If you show me one place where you're making an exception, I guarantee you there are more. Any place, that where you are bending the rules and allowing toxicity or mediocrity to seep into your world, I promise you that's indicative of a more systemic problem. And nobody's perfect, right? And those conversations are hard, but I just don't, I know that I'm worth it and my family's worth it, Brady, and I'm not willing. Here's what I've come to realize. We all have this amazing ability inside of our own head to think we're special, right? Everybody. And everybody thinks we're more special and that our friends are out there talking about us and, oh my God, what are they going to say? Like, look, let me help you out. Nobody gives a shit. You're not that important, right? Everybody's got stuff going on in their life. What's going on in your life is not that important to me. The businesses you're building, let me ask you something. Name one business that you remember from 100 years ago. Name one business leader that you can name off the top of your head from 100 years ago, right? Like, there's a handful, but in the history of the world, we call ourselves, I'm going to build this amazing company that everybody's going to remember, and it's going to live on for generations past me. And like, the reality of it is your legacy in all likelihood is going to die with your grandkids. And when you realize that, how tight that little circle really is now, like, what actually matters is my family and my kids' kids, and the impact I'm able to create while I'm on this planet for this very finite minute of time. All the nonsense that we get wound up in our head is just that. Like, it's so irrelevant in the big picture. We're not that special. You've got this moment, this time, these people. Do something. And if you want to be remembered for something, make them remember you. Like, your kids are going to remember the example you set, the things that matter the most. That's what they're going to do. They're going to model it, and their grandkids will model them. So be very present on that kind of stuff. Our little one, it was interesting. Our little one got, nothing happened, but it came to our attention that a teacher had to say something to Seema, because a little girl that our little one does not, I guess they don't get along in school. And one of the other friends asked, well, what do you think about that girl? And she said something to like basically, I don't like her. And I don't think she's very nice. Well, then the teacher, heard that and goes to Seema and says, we had to tell Corinne it's not nice to say that kind of stuff. And so Seema's freaking out. Like, are we raising a bad kid? And I was like, whoa, stop. What are the things we value? Like, if this was 10 years from now, she's 11. If she was 21 and she was saying, I don't like that person and keep them away from me, we would be applauding her, right? It is one of our, like, we don't allow toxicity. We don't allow people in our lives that we don't want in our lives, and we speak our mind and we're authentic. Great. We might need to tone it down at 11 years old. I appreciate that. But at the reality of it is it's a core tenet of, like, this is it. This is your moment, and don't waste time, and don't get around people that are going to waste your time. And so once Seema kind of saw it through that light, she was like, you know what, you're right. This actually is one of our core values as a family. And she just is being authentic and spoke her mind, and we need to kind of help her. But if it was 10 years later, we would be high-fiving her. Good job, babe. Like, keep people away from you that are toxic. So we may need a little help in that department, but at the end of the day, again, I just think it's the right way to go about it, Brady. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I love that. And I think the big takeaway for everybody is you can tell that Kent has core values in his business, in his life, in his family. They're the same. right? If you ever want guiding principles, have the same core values everywhere and make it non-negotiable,
That's right. There is no
right?
negotiation, period. I mean, I can tell you guys, I'll give you a really good example of this in business. So I run a really successful mastermind, which is a group of about 270 people that pay an enormous amount of money. They invest an enormous amount of money each year to be a part of it. And we get about somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,200 to 2,300 applications every single year to join this group. And we accept about 85. And so our acceptance rate hovers right between 3 and 4%. And so for me to go double my business right now is not hard. Just lower my standards. Go from accepting 3% to 6%. And business would double overnight, and we'd literally make millions of dollars more. That is non-negotiable. I have a strict no douchebag rule in my life, and I'm not making exceptions for anybody. Patrick, go ahead.
Ken, really appreciate everything. I think that a lot of people on this call are really doing everything they can to live life with urgency, get after it, get it done. And I think, well, at least I recognize the struggle that it almost never feels like there's enough time, right? And I know that's between our ears, and I'm curious how you approach this with your clients and others in your life.
Action determines priority. You put the biggest rocks, if you were going to fill up a jar, you had a bunch of small rocks, medium-sized rocks, and big rocks. The analogy is that clearly the most important things, the big rocks, you put in the jar first. Then you put in the medium rocks, then you put in the small rocks. You certainly wouldn't start with all the small rocks and pour them in, and then put the medium rocks in, and then because now everything's not going to fit. But if you do it in the right order, then you will literally be able to get all the rocks in the jar. The biggest priority stuff is the stuff that's needs to be focused on. And so I time block on my, I run almost a dozen companies, and I surround myself with good people. Number one, so I have a good team around me that is empowered to make decisions where not everything, I do not run an organization where every decision has to run through me. That's a job. That is not freedom. So I take a lot of pride that I run my organizations with teams that are empowered to do what they're there to do. And then we have priorities set for every one of those organizations. I get on weekly meetings across those companies once a week to discuss those priorities and what we're doing. What are the big rocks, if you will? And so the same is true in life. I time block, it's on my calendar, literally. Gym, taking the little one to school, lunch with my wife, the things that matter the most. Like on Thursday, I have a Halloween parade for my daughter, right? Trick or treating is literally on my calendar. The things that matter to me that fill up my cup, the big rocks, are all on my calendar. They are blocked, and I do not waste time. There's 24 hours in a day, right? The world history has littered the books with people who got a hell of a lot more done in that 24 hours, created empires. I don't mean just from a business perspective. I mean from an actual empire's perspective. Alexander the Great was one of the greatest emperors, created one of the greatest empires in the world, and died at 35. Right? Think about that. What he accomplished in 15 years, and we're sitting here pissing and moaning because we can't find 30 minutes to work out. That is a discipline problem. That is a prioritization problem. That is, I can't do something. Bullshit. You choose not to. You choose to make the things that matter a priority, and they will. And then you fill in the rest of it with the medium-sized and the small-sized rocks that still require some attention, but they're not the priority. And when you get super disciplined about what actually moves the needle in business and in life, and those are the big rocks, the rest of it will fill itself in. Those are those small and medium-sized rocks. You play the role of, well, I can't because I got all these little things to do. That is the equivalent, the analogy of you filling in the time with all the little rocks, and now you're trying to put a big rock on top of it. Well, no shit, that doesn't work, right? The big rock is the priority, and we all have them, whether in business or in life. But I can assure you, if you become physically fit and mentally sharp, the business and personal and professional will get infinitely better, infinitely better. So those two have to be like, you got to take care of yourself physically. You got to take care of your relationships personally and professionally. And you got to take care of your, what fills your cup up from a spiritual standpoint and what makes you feel alive. That is how you become the best version of yourself, which then allows you to become the best version of yourself in the business. So if you don't make time for it, then you're just, it's like you're going in every day with one arm tied behind your back and trying to figure out why you can't get to stuff. I get a lot done, Patrick, a lot. I mean, I'm excited to this day. I cannot wait I'm in the gym now at 4:30 in the morning, and I cannot wait. My gym is in my office, and I cannot wait to be at my desk by 5:30. I'm like a little kid every day, and it's ridiculous. But it fills my cup up. I love it. I love everything about it. I can't wait for the challenge. And so whatever is the priority for you, the reason why I feel that way is you couldn't convince me otherwise, is because after I get that adrenaline, that dopamine hit out of the gym, I'm ready, man. I'm sharp. And, you throw a couple Red Bulls on top of that and get the kids out of the street because playtime's over, baby. Shit's about to get real fast.